Okay, so we got a really interesting listener request for this deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, someone wants to look at this whole Amazon Synod thing, but like from an Eastern Orthodox perspective.
Wow, that's,
Yeah, pretty unique angle, right?
yeah, that's going to be fascinating.
I know. So just to get everyone on the same page, the
Yeah.
Amazon Synod is this big Catholic bishops meeting
Mhm.
happening soon, all about the future of the church in the Amazon.
Right.
And it's causing a lot of debate.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, should they ordain married priests?
Oh, big question.
Big question. How do indigenous traditions fit into Catholic practice?
Huge. Yeah.
So the article we're diving into is called A Proposal for an Amazonian Rite.
Okay.
And it's written by, you guessed it, an Eastern Orthodox Christian,
Interesting.
which is super interesting.
Yeah, so
Because remember, the Orthodox Church split from the Catholic Church
way back.
way back, like 11th century,
Mhm.
and they have some pretty big theological differences
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that totally color how they see this whole thing.
Absolutely.
So right off the bat, the author kind of lays out his perspective.
Okay.
He calls the Catholic Church a schismatic body,
Schismatic meaning.
meaning in Orthodox Christianity,
Ah.
a group that's broken away from the true church.
Got it.
So he sees the Catholic Church as separate from what he believes is the full grace of God.
Interesting.
And he's pretty upfront about it.
He doesn't mince words.
No, he says Orthodox believers, they're held to a higher standard
Higher. Why?
because they possess, and I'm quoting here, the full truth.
Quote, the full truth, end quote.
Exactly. He's not saying Catholics are like doomed or anything, but he's suggesting they don't have the complete picture
Not the whole picture. Okay.
when it comes to Christian doctrine.
Makes sense.
And this is key to understanding his whole take on the Amazon Synod,
Yeah, why?
because he sees it as potentially moving towards
Or it's...
New Age paganism.
Oh, wow.
And he's particularly worried about the whole married priests thing and female deacons.
Right.
He thinks it's a dangerous departure from traditional Catholic doctrine.
Mm-hmm. Another step away in his view.
Yeah, another step away from what he considers true Christianity.
Got it.
Now, here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
He draws this parallel between the situation in Ukraine,
Ukraine. What, like the war?
not the war itself, but it's
Okay.
connected to the church.
The church, okay.
It might seem like a jump, but stick with me,
Okay, yeah.
because it gets to the heart of his argument.
All right, lay it on me.
So the Catholic Church recently supported
Supported what?
the establishment of a new Orthodox church in Ukraine.
A new one,
Yeah, and this created huge tension
I bet.
with the existing Ukrainian Orthodox Church,
Which is?
the one that the Orthodox world considers the legit one.
Right, so they see this as
The Catholic Church, like, meddling,
meddling, like how?
imposing their will without caring about existing traditions.
I see.
And our author, he sees a pattern here.
A pattern. Okay.
He's worried the Catholic Church is doing the same thing in the Amazon.
Same playbook.
Exactly. Pushing changes that could, like, undermine
Undermine what?
existing religious practices and beliefs there.
Interesting.
But here's the really interesting part.
Okay, there's more.
He doesn't just criticize,
No.
he offers a solution.
A solution, okay.
And it's surprisingly nuanced.
For someone who thinks the Catholic Church is flawed.
Yeah, like really flawed in his view.
What's the solution?
He proposes creating a separate Amazonian rite
A whole separate rite.
within the Catholic Church, like a different branch.
Branches of Catholicism.
Exactly, like different flavors of Catholicism.
Flavors, I like that.
So this new Amazonian rite could allow for married priests, female deacons,
All the things he's worried about.
all that, plus integrating indigenous symbolism and rituals.
So, contained within this new branch.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost like trying to contain it.
That's a great way to put it. Like, okay, if you must make these changes,
Right.
at least do it in a way that preserves the traditional Latin rite.
The heart of Catholic practice. Keep that safe.
It's almost like he's trying to build a firewall
A firewall. I like that.
to contain what he sees as this potentially damaging experiment.
Interesting. So he's saying...
He's saying protect the core of Catholicism,
Mhm.
but still allow space for different cultural expressions of the faith.
To flourish in their own way.
It's a fascinating proposal, right?
Especially coming from an Orthodox Christian.
I know. And it really highlights how complex these relationships are.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he seems to be saying he respects the traditions of the Latin rite, even though he believes the Catholic Church has strayed.
Strayed from the true path.
But it makes you wonder, is this separate but equal approach really feasible?
Yeah. Does it even address the root of the problem?
The fundamental differences that caused the schism in the first place.
Exactly. That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a big one.
And it gets to the heart of what we'll be exploring next. The author himself seems to be wrestling with this too.
He does, yeah.
Especially when you look at how he critiques the Catholic Church and its whole history.
Okay, so let's dive into that.
Let's do it. So it seems like the author thinks this separate but equal approach, while maybe practical, doesn't really solve the deeper problems he sees in Catholicism.
So you're saying he views this Amazonian Rite idea more like a Band-Aid than a real fix?
Exactly. He argues that the Catholic Church has been on this trajectory away from what he considers true Christianity.
Since when?
Ever since that East-West schism way back in the 11th century.
Right.
He sees it as part of this long pattern adaptation that's taken the church further and further from its roots, in his view.
So for him, it's bigger than just the Amazon Synod.
Way bigger.
It's about this fundamental issue of the Catholic Church going astray.
Straying from the true path, yeah. He even points to these groups like the Sedevacantists.
Sedevacantists, those are...
They're these traditionalist Catholics.
Okay.
Who reject a lot of the modern changes in the church.
Oh, interesting.
And the old Catholics, they're another example.
How long have these groups been around?
Over a century, actually.
Wow, so he's using them as an example of
this ongoing tension, traditionalists and those pushing for modernization within Catholicism.
It's like he's saying this struggle between tradition and adapting. It's not new.
Not at all. It's been brewing for ages.
Centuries.
Yeah, centuries.
And he suggests that every time the Catholic Church tries to adapt, it moves further from what he sees as the original faith.
The unaltered Christian faith, yeah.
It's important to remember here, though.
What's that?
The author is giving us a very specific viewpoint.
A very orthodox one.
Exactly.
It's sort of like a lens he's using to look at all this.
And we got to understand that lens.
To really get his argument.
First,
he even talks about these letters.
Letters?
Yeah, that the popes used to send.
Who?
The Byzantine emperor.
Okay.
And the Patriarch of Constantinople.
Who's that?
The leader of the Orthodox Church.
Got it.
And in these letters, the popes promised to uphold traditional church doctrine.
So he's trying to show there was this shared understanding once
common ground
between Catholics and Orthodox.
Or the schism, exactly.
But then as the Catholic Church started changing,
making what he sees as moves away from that tradition, those letters stopped.
Like the popes were saying.
We don't feel bound by that anymore.
It's like he's pointing to this moment when the Catholic Church changed its relationship to authority.
Exactly. He's basically saying they went from being one part of the Christian world to acting like they're the only ones with the truth.
A power grab.
That undermines the real spirit of Christianity in his view.
So even though he offers this practical solution, the Amazonian Rite, it sounds like he's not hopeful.
About the future of the Catholic Church? No, not really.
Like he thinks it's a losing battle.
In a way, yeah.
But it's important to remember his perspective here.
Absolutely.
This isn't about saying he's right or wrong.
No, it's about understanding where he's coming from.
And how that shapes his view of everything.
Of the Catholic Church, of the Amazon Synod, all of it.
It's a good reminder that there are different lenses.
So many different lenses.
For looking at these complicated religious issues.
And sometimes just understanding those different perspectives can be more valuable than trying to figure out who's right.
That's a great point.
Especially today.
Why today?
It's so easy to get stuck in echo chambers.
With people who already agree with us.
Exactly. So hearing perspectives that challenge us can really open our minds.
Okay, so how do we tie all this back to our listener?
The one who asked about this.
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
This deep dive, it's a lesson in perspective.
Perspective, how so?
It shows how important it is to understand where someone's coming from.
When they're arguing a point.
Exactly. It's like knowing the rules of the game.
Before you can understand what's happening.
Perfect analogy.
So in this case, we're seeing the Amazon Synod through this Eastern Orthodox lens.
Right, which emphasizes tradition.
A specific way of looking at early Christian doctrine.
And a lot of skepticism towards Catholic authority.
And by understanding that lens, we can get his argument.
Even if we don't agree with everything he says.
It's not about taking sides.
It's about broadening our understanding.
Of this whole complex issue.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here?
What's the lingering question?
Yeah, the one you want to leave our listener with.
The author, whether he meant to or not,
Mm-hmm.
makes us ask this bigger question.
Okay.
Can any religion really bridge the gap between tradition and being modern?
That's deep.
It goes way beyond just the Amazon Synod.
Or even the Catholic Church.
It's something that all faiths, all believers,
Just wrestle with.
especially in today's world.
Is it possible to change and adapt, but still hold on to your core values?
That's the million-dollar question.
And there's no easy answer.
Not at all.
It takes real thought.
Honest reflection.
And a willingness to hear different perspectives.
Absolutely.
So, to our listener,
As you keep exploring the Amazon Synod,
keep that question in mind.
yeah, let it challenge you.
To think critically
And compassionately.
about this whole relationship.
Between faith, tradition, and the world we live in.
That's a great note to end on.
So, looking back at everything,
Yeah.
it seems like the author's solution.
The Amazonian Rite.
That, it's interesting, but
Right.
it doesn't really address the core problem.
The schism,
Well, more like what he sees as the problem.
which is,
The Catholic Church basically going off course centuries ago.
right, diverging from true Christianity.
In his view, yeah, so this new right idea,
Mm-hmm.
it's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Not a long-term fix.
Not at all. He's not really trying to solve the schism itself,
Don't really
managing an internal crisis.
within Catholicism.
Yeah, that tension between tradition and adapting
Like he's admitting that reunification.
between the churches.
Yeah.
Seems pretty unlikely, at least anytime soon.
That's kind of heavy.
Yeah.
So for our listener who might not be like a theology scholar,
Yeah, right.
what's the big takeaway here?
I think it shows just how much history matters
Okay.
and how our beliefs shape how we see things.
Even events happening right now?
Exactly, like with the Amazon Synod.
It's not just about the meeting itself.
No.
It's centuries of
Yeah.
theology, politics, all tangled up.
Like an iceberg, you only see the tip.
But underneath,
Loads of complexity.
and that's what exploring this perspective does.
It makes you think deeper.
Question your own assumptions.
Realize there's not always one right answer.
Multiple ways of seeing the world.
That's the beauty of it.
So, as we wrap up,
Mhm.
what's the final thought, the big question?
The author kind of leaves us with this powerful image,
Okay.
that bridge between tradition and the modern world.
Can you even build that bridge?
It goes way beyond just the Amazon Synod.
All faiths, all of us really,
Trying to figure out how to hold on to what matters.
while still moving forward.
Exactly. No easy answers, but
It's worth wrestling with.
talking about it, hearing different views,
That's what helps us understand
ourselves, the
Yeah.
world.
everything.
So, to our listener,
Keep that question in mind
yeah,
as you explore this topic further.
I'd challenge you
To think deeply and with compassion.
about faith, tradition, this crazy world we live in.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive.